Mel Daily here, and today I wanted to talk to you about when you're feeling like things have gotten stagnant, whether there is a goal that you're working towards, or you're kind of just in one of those states of feeling like, what am I doing with my life, right? Either way, when things are feeling like you've hit a rut or a plateau, or just, again, that stagnancy. So what do we do? How do we get moving? How do we keep moving forward? Because chances are, if you're here, you're not really interested in just kind of staying at this, same level, right? There's something else that you're looking for. There's something that's telling you that there could potentially be more possible for you. So what do we do in these moments? So firstly, we have to understand that, there has to be alignment between our beliefs, our goals, and our actions, right? If anything, if there's a misalignment there, then we're going to kind of meet some resistance or friction. We're not going to be able to move forward. So you have to have that alignment, right? The beliefs part. So let's actually start with the goals part, right? If you want something, right, there has to be, let's just use a simple analogy here. If you want to go to a restaurant that you really love, right, that is the goal, the desire, right? So you have to have that clarity on it, whether in order to like get somewhere, right, versus like, oh my gosh, where do I want to eat? I don't know, right? So there has to be that clarity on the goal. Then there has to also be a belief that it is possible for you to actually go there and get to that restaurant, right? If you're like, that's not possible, right? They're always busy. There's always a line. I'm never going to get in there, right? Then chances are that line of thought is not going to help you get there, because you're essentially closing the door on that possibility. You're writing it off in your mind versus allowing there to be any possibility for that occurring and you actually looking for ways to make that happen. Again, this is a really simplified version or analogy. And then, so beliefs, goals, and then actions, right? Taking the necessary actions to make that happen, right? Actually figuring out, well, do I need to make a reservation, or is it walk up? And if it's walk up, what am I going to do to wait in line and make sure that I can make that happen, right? So beliefs, actions, and goals. Now, that's not necessarily unheard of, but a piece that I wanted to talk about today is because a lot of people in the mindset space, coaching space, we dive a lot into those self-limiting beliefs, right? And are you potentially having these false stories that your survival-based brain, right, something we talk about a lot here, is, creating for you, that again is closing off the door to these possibilities, right? I can't do that because of this, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people talk about that, but even before that, do you have true clarity on your goal? And maybe you are working towards a goal, but it's just not happening, right? And sometimes we really have to take the time to assess, is this actually a true desire, a true goal? Or is it a goal that I've kind of just like adopted from other people, society, the way we're supposed to live our lives, all of the messages that we receive on social media, in school, parents, just our total upbringing. And it's not necessarily anything that someone's shoving down your throat, right? It's just that we absorb so much, and again, we kind of inherently adopt it without realizing, right? So taking a step back is so necessary to really understanding, is this a true soul desire, right? Because if it's not, right, then a lot of people think, oh, you can manifest anything you want, you can create anything you want, right? Yes, anything is possible. So much is possible, right? And life really does support you, but it supports you in the way that it knows is best for you, which is really that soul desire, that actual genuine desire, not a desire that's coming from really what we call the ego trap, which is something we have, other resources on. But really, how to discern this, right? A true soul, genuine desire versus kind of that desire and goal that we've adopted from other people. We can discern this by asking ourselves and really taking the time to get honest. This is not something to rush through. Is this coming from potential fears or desire, right? Is it based out of fear, motivated by fear, or is it motivated by true, pure desire? So potential fears, right? It's not like we're walking around with these conscious, like really explicit, overt fears. This is why you have to take the time to really slow down and really, like I said, get honest with yourself, because they live under the surface, right? It's in our subconscious mind. So it can be a lot of things related to fear of not looking competent, fear of not looking smart, fear of not looking capable, fear of failure. A lot of this related to goals and desires tends to have to do with our ego, or in other words, really people's perception of us and our desire to protect that and to protect how others perceive us, because that gives us a sense of safety, right? No one can criticize me, right? So oftentimes it's easier to go along with these goals and desires that are very normalized in our society. I'll just get this job, I'll do this thing, right? Because it allows us to avoid some of that potential judgment and criticism of, who are you to think you can do this thing over here, right? Potentially looking crazy or irresponsible or delusional or all these things, right? If you're going to veer away from goals that we typically are kind of fed, if you will. So this is so crucial, because things are going to happen so much easier for you if it's really in alignment with your actual self and what you're here to do and your true soul, if you will, right? So you're going to be constantly up against resistance if you're trying to force something that's really not meant for you. But sometimes we've convinced ourselves so much, we haven't taken the time to really be self-aware, that we say, no, this really is what I want. This is really, really, really what I want. So it's really a process of unraveling that and getting very clear on, okay, what's this goal I have? What's this desire I have? Are there any, like, what is the ratio here, right? Is it a higher ratio of fears, right? Like, what if I don't do this? What would happen, right? Is it really motivated by a lack of, like, an avoidance of a negative and all the things that could potentially go wrong, if you will, or be bad if you don't do this thing, right? That's when it's really motivated by fear versus a genuine, pure desire. And you've gotten to that point when there's really no logical explanation for it. It's like, I just want that. I just want that, right? That just sounds amazing. I just want that. And that's when you're on the right track. People shy away from that because we're told to be smart, be responsible, only think logically and linearly, which is great and has its place, but not if you're looking to live a life that you actually want to enjoy, right? So this is a huge piece in creating that forward momentum and moving things forward for ourselves. If we're in that kind of place of stagnancy or plateau, or just, nothing's really happening, I'm not feeling really like lit up and excited about what I'm doing, I know I want more for myself, right? So this is a huge piece of that, really discerning if this is a true desire for yourself, or if there's potentially those threads of very subtle threads of being motivated by fears or like attempting to avoid a negative. And then on this path, a huge piece of this that I often find with clients and people that I work with is it's like this desire, and I've experienced this for myself. This really created a lot of stagnancy for me. I would almost become obsessive about, what do I want to do with my life? I want to live a life of meaning. I want to live a life of purpose. I want to find happiness. And I kept spinning my wheels because I was looking, my mind was looking for this grand plan. Oh, I'm going to do this. This is going to be the grand vision, and to have it all figured out and to have it all laid out. And then this is the steps I'm going to take. And certain paths that may be drawn to certain people do have a very clear destination and a very clear path, right? You want to become a doctor, you want to become a lawyer. Yes, that might be fitting, but when you're in this place of uncertainty about what you want, it doesn't unfold in a moment from brainstorming and you come to this grand vision. The way to arrive at more clarity on what you want, whether it ends up being this very clear thing like doctor, lawyer, right? Or if it's something a little less concrete, less something that is often done, that has that sort of traditional path laid out for it. The way to get there is not a grand vision, but this is where the mindfulness piece comes in, is really moment to moment, paying attention to what you want, what you are drawn to, what is exciting you, what you are passionate about. And it's scary because it feels, again, not as responsible or smart. And I need to, take the steps and brainstorm and get the chalkboard out and whiteboard, right? But again, the mind is very good at just spinning its wheels and saying, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, right? So it has to be, if you want to live a life in which you are experiencing joy, it doesn't come out of thin air, right? What do I want to do that allows me to step into my power and success and experience happiness? That's not going to come about by being in a place of stress and, worry and overthinking, right? You're not going to come from a state of stress and worry and overthinking to suddenly this state of enlightenment and joy and passion, right? So the only way to discover what that true path is for you, where there is more joy and passion, is to follow that in the moment, right? That doesn't mean you have to take some crazy sabbatical and be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go, have my eat, pray, love experience. If that's available to you, awesome. But otherwise, I went through this when I was in a really crazy, career of stress and very fast paced and a toxic culture. Even in that, I carved out time to really just allow myself to come into these moments of, happiness, of what feels exciting to me, right? And really exploring that, because, life is a series of moments, right? And so if we're not creating that joy and that passion in that moment, it's not going to suddenly lead to a life of that, right? We have to find that in each moment, and then the next moment, and the next moment. So really almost like this yellow brick road approach. And there's so much more to go into about all of this, but I just wanted to share a little bit about this for you so that you can really get that forward momentum on, finding a goal and that momentum, but also that joy.